on this computer. Hi, everyone. Great to see you today. I am super excited to have a conversation with a friend and fellow coach. We were recently connected on LinkedIn, and she's really awesome. And I know you will love hearing all the fabulous pearls of wisdom that she has to say. So let me introduce you to Hailey Rowe. Hailey is a marketing sales coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. She helps service-based business owners get more time back and boost sales without being held back by social media overwhelm, which we all know can be very intimidating. She shares her FAST framework, marketing, and business tips in her Health Coach Nation podcast and in the Health Coach Nation Facebook group. And we'll have all her links posted in the show notes. She's been named as one of the top 25 coaches in Chicago and one of the top 6 business podcasts for health coaches. Amazing achievement. Since 2010, Hailey has worked in the coaching industry and in business development, marketing for startups. Her philosophy is, you can have an amazing service and impact to make, but without a strong mindset and a sales marketing plan, your business will remain a hobby. All right, let's welcome the fabulous Hailey Rowe.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here today.
And we're thrilled to have you. It's very exciting to have you here. So why don't, I know that was kind of in a nutshell of where you've been, but maybe share something with our viewers that is maybe unique to you that they might not find on one of your social media profiles.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one thing is I am a singer and I actually sing in a wedding band. I sub for them now, but I used to do it pretty much every weekend and multiple times a weekend.
Wow.
I'm tired, but now I sub for them. And I love music, so that's a fun fact.
That is so cool. Did you study music in college or?
I actually studied entrepreneurship, so I totally went on a hiatus from music in college. But it's just something fun I like to do, outside of work.
I love that. I think that's so awesome. And that's your creative side, clearly. So very, very cool. All right. Well, today we are talking about outsourcing and time management tips. And I know our viewers would love to hear tons of pearls and wisdom from you on that. So let me start by asking you, I know that there are some misconceptions out there about outsourcing. Should I, shouldn't I? What would you say is the greatest misconception?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is thinking that you have to have the entire standard operating procedure and the entire process figured out and perfectly written out before you even start with outsourcing. And I think it holds a lot of people back from even starting and kind of getting them in that mindset of like, it's easier if I just do it myself. But the truth is, you can film a video of yourself doing a task. You can transcribe it pretty easily. You can have an onboarding call where you're kind of walking through it and building the system with the person you're hiring. So it's something that you got to remind yourself you can build it with them instead of needing to have it built before they come on board. And I think another misconception is sometimes people on the opposite side of the spectrum just want to outsource everything right away before knowing any basics or like having the knowledge of how do you track if what you're outsourcing is successful, and do you know like the language you'd be kind of communicating with this person. Like, for example, with Facebook ads, I think it's important before you outsource that, if you're a business owner in particular, to know that, like, know some of the basics, know what a cost per lead means, know all of that, because otherwise you might hire someone and you might not really know if what they're doing is going well. They might tell you it's going well, but you might not know. And so there's I guess the two things I would say is, number one, remind yourself it doesn't have to be perfect and you can't expect the service provider to read your mind, but you can say, hey, I want to build this with you and I need somebody who's like able to roll with that. And then the second thing is, though, don't outsource too soon to where you don't even know the basics of like what you're talking about with the person you're outsourcing to.
Great tips. And yeah, because you always want to have the pulse on your business, but you don't necessarily have to be an expert in everything. So that's great advice. What are some of the pitfalls that you have seen, like for new business owners, like when they're starting? What is like one of the biggest, I guess,
Yeah.
challenges that they experience?
I would say one of them is out of order in what they're pursuing. So a lot of times I see new business owners thinking, okay, the first step is I need a really fancy website, or I need to do Facebook ads as my marketing thing first. And I think the truth is you need to start with a minimum viable product, and you need to start with the good old fashioned marketing and getting your first clients and sales, and knowing what works and what kind of language converts with your audience before jumping straight into like, I need this perfect website or I need this perfect Facebook ad campaign. Because what I see a lot of people doing is they prematurely make those things, and then they have to go recreate them once they actually know what their audience responds to. So that's a big one. The other thing is, I think we stop ourselves in a lot of ways. And I'm sure you see this with your clients and what you do with mental fitness is like, a lot of times we just stop ourselves with our own beliefs, like, oh, I could never charge that much, or I am not a business owner, and they don't see themselves that way. Like their self-concept is off. So it's impacting everything they do in their business on a daily basis. Because if I don't see myself as a successful business owner yet, everything I do, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm new. Oh, like you're going to bring that energy to everything.
That is so true. And I 100% agree with you that it doesn't matter if you have a great goal, and it doesn't matter if you've got all the tools in place. If your head's not in the game, you are never going to be successful. So how do you coach your clients in mindset to make sure that they are in the right mindset to be successful?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things is when you're starting out, it's very easy to want to see all 30 steps of your next steps in order, and what you're going to have to do, and like what's the certainty behind this, and I need to know before I even start. And the truth is, of course, I give my clients a process. I have a framework that I use with them, like it's been proven, etc. But in business, you have to be adaptable, and you have to just start, and you have to be willing to adjust as you go and take as many steps as you need to take to hit the end goal. Now, that doesn't mean hustling yourself to the ground and burning yourself out and all that. But what it does mean is, if you're going to say, oh, I only want to do these steps if I feel like it today, or I only want to do these steps if I know for sure exactly how the person's going to respond, or I only want to do these steps today and you have all these conditions, it's going to be really hard to stick with it, because starting a business, as you know, is like a lot of planting seeds before you see them blossom. And a thought that really has helped a lot of my clients is like, everything I put out there value-wise comes back to me in some way, shape, or form. It might not be in the shape or form that I think it's going to come back to me, but it does come back to me. And when you go with that mindset, you don't have that like resentment or like, okay, I can't see the blossoming yet. Instead,
Yes.
you're more like, okay, I'm taking these steps. I know it's going to work. You bring that energy, and then it does work. But if you're stuck on, I only want to take these certain steps, and I only have these conditions, and I only if I feel like it, and I'm doing so much, and like, that's just like the wrong mentality to have going into it.
It totally is. And you described a perfect example in the mental fitness space of where somebody is hijacked by their left brain, and their brain is telling them all these lies that, oh, it has to be done XYZ way. You can't deviate from that. And like you said, it's like black or white. And problem is, the world isn't black or white.
Mhm.
And things change, and you have to have flexibility. And also, when you are working in that right space, and we call it in positive intelligence world, from the sage perspective, there's always a gift and opportunity. And you just explained that. You have to look for the gift and opportunity. And as you said, it may come in a very unexpected way. But I love that. I think that's so good, because there are so many people out there who might do similar things that you do, but I don't think they go to that level and really prep the person so that they can be successful. And then you just implement all your fabulous tools that you put in shape, in place. So, and I know, time management is one of those big hot buttons for you. So walk us through just how do you walk through with a client how to time manage? It seems like so obvious, but it's really not.
Yeah, definitely. So, two things I will say just to start with when it comes to evaluating how you're currently spending your time is I usually run a time audit with my clients. So for a week, they'll time themselves using an app called Toggle. It's Toggl. And at the end of the week, it sends you a report about here's how you spent your time. And I literally do this to this day. I do it for myself every week just because I like to live very intentionally. And if I see oh my God, I spent so much time on XYZ that I don't care about, I'm like, what the heck? And so I'll make adjustments, right? But anyways, I don't expect my clients to do that every week, but at least once, time yourself for a week and just see where your time is going. And then at the end, you can look at, okay, what do I want to keep doing here? What do I want to stop doing here? And what do I want to start doing? And is there any inefficiencies or holes or reasons why certain things took me so long or other things didn't get attention? And we can start really diving into that on a deeper level. Now, what a lot of people do, and this is a big mistake with time management, is they'll look at that and instead of doing the method we just talked about and evaluating it as data, they'll beat themselves up and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm such a loser. I procrastinated. This is not up to my standards. And they'll just skip the evaluation part and just be like, I'm just going to revamp it tomorrow. And they don't actually go through how they're going to do that.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. So we all say that, but then do you actually do it? So sorry about that background noise, but that's the first thing. The second thing is you want to do a big, when it comes to structuring your week and planning your week, you want to do a big thought download or brain dump of everything on your mind, everything on your calendar, everything you think you need to do, everything you want to do, etc. And anytime you get ideas, of course, just add them to the list. But then we want to categorize it into what on that list is someday tasks where it's you want to do that right now, but it really doesn't drive you towards your top 1 to 2 goals. And you should know what those goals are so that you can evaluate how you should be spending your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing is pick a someday list and move things that don't need to be in front of you to that list. And that's a really good tip for people who get really excited and distracted easily with shiny object syndrome is if you want to watch that webinar, you can, but put it on the someday list because you don't have time right now, or you got to focus on XYZ, unless the webinar, of course, helps you move towards your goal. But the other thing is you want to look at what's critical this week, what will have consequences if I do not do it this week, and or what will cause me to not reach my goal if I don't do it this week, and break down those things for your weekly to-do list into something that you could say a yes or no, I did. And it's a 30-minute task or less. If you haven't broken it down to where you think it's going to take you 30 minutes or less, it's not broken down enough. Because that's the other problem I see is people post or people will put on their list, work on website. And then it's well, what does that mean? There's 10 pages on your website. You're not going to get all of them right now, today.
Right.
So break it down. And then you can have the next priority list or kind of future list. It's these are things that are moderate priority and they're coming up, but I don't need to do it this week. So that's the first part. And then you also want to look at your week of meetings and actual obligations you have to go to and picking up your kids and transportation time and all of that and put that in first because you know that those things have to happen. Then I usually have clients put in when's your self-care time or when's your work exercise or just stuff that you know is important to you that if you don't do, you're going to burn out or whatever. And then from there, you add in the other things for your business or for work or whatever. And a lot of times what people see there is that their obligations are taking up so much time that they have very little time for the things that really matter. And so at that point, you'll either have to decide, do you want to change it? Do you want to just own that? Or is there something you can do to make it more efficient or have less meetings or, whatever. And then from a daily standpoint, so I don't have you time batch your whole entire week, but I do have you like time batch your appointments and meetings and all that. Then from a daily standpoint, you look at what do you actually have to show up to today? Like this meeting is one of mine. But then I also make a wish list of here's what I'd love to do today. And I pull from my weekly list. And then I actually put the time blocks in of like, here's when my appointments are and stuff. Here's the free space. And now what's actually going to fit in from my wish list? And a lot of times, a lot of stuff doesn't make the cut. And so you have to really learn to prioritize like what's going to move me forward. And you get really good at knowing how long certain things take you when you start to practice this. What a lot of people will do is they'll fear doing this process of time batching because they're like, I don't want to mess up, or this is going to take me longer, or I don't know how long this is going to take me. How do you expect me to put this in my calendar? But the truth is, if you are not judgmental about it and you take a guess and you give yourself a little extra buffer time, if you're really concerned it's going to take longer than you think, you're going to get really good at time management and getting things done. And as I don't know who said this, but there's some quote out there that like things take as long as they take you. Yeah. And so if you give yourself 2 hours to write one email, it's going to take you 2 hours. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to give myself, 45 minutes and what I have at the end is what I have at the end, you got to go for it. And the last thing I'll say about this, and then I'll be quiet.
No, this is amazing. I'm learning a bunch of stuff. I love it.
Oh,
That's
good.
Great.
The last thing I will say about this though is, good, better, best. So every day you're not always going to be like crushing it. And some days, like this is more of a family oriented day, or this is more of a, like, I'm going to go heavy on work today, and everything's not going to be in perfect balance every single day. And giving yourself permission to have some things that are in maintenance mode, some things that are in like full force mode, and just saying like, okay, I don't want to completely let my XYZ priority go. But what's like a good choice where I could still keep it in there and still do something towards that. But I also know this is a bigger priority, right? XYZ is a bigger priority right now. So I'm just going to choose the good choice today and not like the best choice today. And just accepting sometimes your work is not going to be perfect, and that's okay.
That is totally okay, because we're not perfect and we never will be perfect. It's okay. I mean, we can strive to do our best, but gosh, there's so many great nuggets in that. It's be kind to yourself. You're learning along the process. You don't just automatically, if you've never tracked really how you're spending your time, you can't just necessarily just snap your fingers and say, oh, this is how much time it's going to take. Be flexible. You have to be flexible. And I love putting in that flex time, although you didn't actually use the term flex time. That's kind of what it is, in a sense of, okay, so if I finished everything that I absolutely had to do, then here are some things that are important to me and I can try to incorporate them. And then, just again, be kind to yourself and just know that, every day you might not be hugely productive, or you may not be productive in the way that you think you should be productive. You were productive, but in different terms.
Right.
And I know for me that was a big learning. One of my saboteurs, this is lingo in positive intelligence, is hyperachiever. And it's very task driven, productivity, if you're not careful, can be like a measurement of your personal worth, which is so not true. But again, lie we tell ourselves, but it can really mess with your head.
I'm probably in that category as well.
Right, exactly. And, business leaders, this is what happens. And it's okay to be, constantly trying to do better. And that's a wonderful trait. But if your self-esteem and self-worth is totally based on how productive you are, that's a problem. So, it's just interesting. Everything that you said, it's just about really kind of creating self-awareness. And I love that. I think all amazing, amazing tips. So let's see. Let's kind of change gears a little bit, and why, again, there are other people out there that do what you do. And obviously the mindset piece, I think you're taking it to a different level, but Are there any other specific things why people should go to you, Hailey, and not somebody else?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things is I've worked with a wide variety of business owners, from beginners to people who are running, like I have a client right now who's a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. And I think we all have the same struggles. It's just in different flavors.
That's
So
so true.
we all deal with overwhelm. We all deal with what should I do next to grow? We all, so I think one thing that I would share with people is just feel free to reach out to me and share what you need help with. And I can give you either custom resources I already have, like I have tons of podcasts and blogs and things like that that might help, or just share a tidbit of where I would go next or whatever. So I think it's more direct to the person, as far as like, rather than me saying a pre-canned answer about why I'm the best, it's more like I adapt to you. So I want to hear what you're struggling with and I want to see if I can help. And then I think the other thing is, one thing I would share with your audience is, if you are looking to manage that overwhelm and have a system for that, I have a free overwhelm masterclass at haileyrowe.com/overwhelm-class. And that could be a good thing to start with if you're struggling with that.
Oh, I love that, because yeah, I have people all the time who are dealing with overwhelm and trying to prioritize. And, one thing I didn't mention, but what was coming to mind as you were sharing your tips previously, was boundaries. It is so important to set boundaries. And I know I spent a lot of time talking about boundaries, and it's not just removing toxic people from your life, which a lot of times people think it is. It's learning how to say no. And sometimes that is very hard to do. But, if like you said, those obligations, if they're consuming so much of your time that you can't really spend the time needed on your business, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So I love that. All right. Anything else that you can think of that could be maybe an extra tip that you could kind of slide in there, maybe to help people?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that will save you a lot of frustration, and just a reminder, is don't expect other people to read your mind. So if you
So
are going
good.
to set a boundary now, or you are going to hire somebody, we can't expect they have the same expectations, the same standards, the same everything as you. So
So
if,
true.
for example, I put my phone on airplane mode a lot, and I've actually taught people, like, oh, like they know now, like, oh, for a last minute thing, Hailey's not usually the person to call, which I know sounds like a little rough. And I do have settings where you can put like emergency people in a category or whatever, but it's probably one of the best boundaries I've ever set, because now it's like, oh, there's not ever last minute requests usually that come on my calendar. The other thing I'll tell you is plan for the things that you feel like are going to go away, or like you have been ignoring and then you have resentment towards. So let me explain that a little bit. If once a month, usually your kids get sick and you have to go pick them up at school and they're home, just kind of like include that as buffer time every month in when you're realistically setting like your timelines, your goals, etc. Same thing with like random, if a certain thing keeps coming up and you either haven't set a boundary around it, or it's something you can't control, like your kid getting sick at school, do think about like, okay, probably once a month, I'm going to get that call, so that you're just more expecting it now. And there's no added like emotions to it, as opposed to it always being like this thing of like, oh, dang it, it happened again. I can never get any work done. Why does this happen to me? Like that kind of thing.
And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when you speak more about that, oh, this is always going to happen, well, it does. Because our thoughts become our belief system, which drives our behavior. So absolutely, absolutely. Great advice. Kind of planning for the unexpected, which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but it's kind of being prepared and aware. So I love that. All right. So to wrap things up, I know we're going to have like all your social media links and everything in the cliff notes or chat notes. But what is the best way for somebody to reach out to you?
Yeah. So you can contact me on Instagram at Hailey, HAILEY_ROWE. You can send me a DM there. I'm also at HaileyRowe.com, and the free overwhelm class is HaileyRowe.com/overwhelm-class. And then the Health Coach Nation podcast is my podcast. So that might not pertain to every single person listening here, but if you do want business tips, mindset tips, that kind of thing, it is for coaches who want business tips. So it might apply to you too. You never know.
You never know. Well, this was awesome. You shared so many amazing nuggets. So thank you so, so much. I appreciate this. And hopefully we'll be able to connect again and have another one of these conversations. So,
Yeah, definitely.
all right. Thanks so much, Hailey.